So what was the next step, if you will?
The next step was I was advanced to Petty Officer Second Class, pay grade E5, by service-wide competition while I was aboard the Verbena. And the next thing that happened after that, after the promotion list came out, was I received orders to transfer. Turns out somehow that I was the senior second-class yeoman in the entire 5th Coast Guard District. I don't know how that happened because there were at least 10 of them at the district office in Portsmouth, but that's neither here nor there. The needs of the service. Boston, Massachusetts was where I was ordered to a brand new 378-foot high endurance cutter named after our only Medal of Honor winner. It was the Douglas A. Munro, the Coast Guard Cutter Munro, which ultimately would be in Boston, but was still being constructed at the Avondale shipyards just outside New Orleans. And so we were living in Swansboro, my wife and I, and I think I omitted the birth of my son. That came while I was stationed in Swansboro, North Carolina. So the three of us packed up, took them back to Grand Rapids, and then I headed to Newport, Rhode Island, where the crew was assembling. The ship was being built in Avondale, but we had what was called select and directs from all over the Coast Guard. The 1st District would be told select and direct 1 first-class engineman, 1 second-class yeoman, 1 chief boatswain's mate. The 3rd District would be given a quota to solicit, and it's not a request, and have them report no later than. And this crew, a kind of an ill-assorted guard, comes together in a given place. In our case, it was the Navy Schools Command in Newport, Rhode Island, and everyone would be trained in their specialties. Then when the ship was complete, which was August 1970, then the crew would transfer wholesale down to the site where the ship was being built. A series of semi-trucks and trailers coming from various Coast Guard supply centers would bring the equipage, everything, from engine parts to typewriters to knives and forks to mattresses, everything to outfit a ship. All the publications, instructional manuals, none of them assembled, of course. They're all in boxes, chapters 1 through 3, and then they forgot to send 4, 5, and 6, and so forth. But we got there and actually then became a crew. We met our officers and the captain and put the ship together, got out of New Orleans and headed to Naval Station Guantanamo, where we trained in anti-submarine warfare. That class of vessel was at one time, and may still be, one of the top anti-submarine assets that the Navy and the Coast Guard had. We had torpedoes, we had auxiliary power of 18,000 horsepower, twin Pratt Whitney jet engines, $9 grand apiece. We were never told how fast we could go, only that it was in excess of 30 knots. And we all were aboard for sea trials when it was called lighting off the birds. And it went very fast because nuclear submarines go very fast. It was a magnificent ship. And I have pictures of the Munro. It was a remarkable experience, and maybe the best learning experience that I had about the nuts and bolts of the Coast Guard. it doesn't just happen. Everyone has to work hard to make it happen, to bring a ship from a set of blueprints up to an actual fighting, operating ship with a crew that knows what they're doing and knows each other and so forth. Great experience.
What kind of incidents happened during this period of time? Was it basically just training, and so you weren't really actually engaged in rescue like you did before?
Normal operations.
Okay.
No, that didn't happen until we were placed in commission permanent, fully in commission. We trained in Guantanamo, a particular regimen of training. Certain aspects of our operations were concentrated on. We made it to Boston. My wife and son and I had quarters up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, that were a civilian housing development, apartment complex that the Coast Guard leased apartments for married people. Then went back to Guantanamo for their regimen called underway training, which all ships of their fleet and the Coast Guard fleet get periodically to refresh, get up to date with new technology, go through the routine stuff, which sometimes becomes so routine that you need to be retrained, lest it become commonplace and somebody dies because they forget to go to their abandoned ship station or which gun mount to go to, so forth. We were then back in Boston, and and we were commissioned. We had a commissioning ceremony. The Secretary of Transportation was there, the Commandant of the Coast Guard was there, and Douglas A. Munro's mother, the mother of our only Medal of Honor winner, was there, and I was privileged to escort her, give her my arm, and she's a great lady. She joined the Coast Guard after her son was killed on Guadalcanal. She joined the reserves as a spar, semper paratus, always ready, during the Second World War, and to take his place.
Wow.
Great story. But I left. I was transferred down to Washington, D.C., to Coast Guard Headquarters, Personnel Services Division, and trained by the Navy out in San Diego as a drug abuse education specialist. Like the other military services that had operated in Southeast Asia, by 72 or so, all the services, including the Coast Guard, realized that folks were coming back from Southeast Asia with the king-size drug habits, that which they could get for $5 a day and 90% pure, they couldn't find on the streets here. And that, of course, well, the problem is still with us.
Sure.
But the symptoms such as someone with an otherwise clean record knocked over for petty theft or grand theft to get money to afford to sustain the habit. Yeah. And we looked at it, much as the Navy did, as a personnel problem with high overtones of personal problems. We realized that our sailors are not big ballpoint pens, and when they break, you can just order another box of them and put them to work. So it was, I was in the human resources development arena. I traveled around the Coast Guard, establishing a network of drug abuse education specialists in the district offices. There were 12, and major units, Coast Guard Academy, Coast Guard Headquarters in Washington, training centers in Petaluma, Alameda, California, Cape May, New Jersey, to try and get the word out. Likewise, we realized that education wasn't going to do it. Strictly, it was a preventative measure, but that there was need for rehabilitation where that didn't work.
I'm not going to go off subject. I just want to make a comment that I become very close friends with a veteran from Vietnam who was a chaplain, and I want you to meet him, Chaplain Herman Kaiser. and I've interviewed him for this program.
I know the name.
You do?
Yes.
Because he was the one that helped design that whole program, the drug, yeah.
Yep.
You haven't met him yet?
No.
You two need
No,
to talk.
but his name's familiar.
Yeah, you two need to talk. He's an amazing man. But yeah, please go on.
Well, this was the back in the days before Nancy Reagan's Just Say No, and it was trial and error, and the measurements were difficult. I'm not sure how effective we were, but we got a start. From that duty station, from Coast Guard headquarters, I was selected for Officers Candidate School. I'm sure it was not a negative being stationed at Coast Guard headquarters where the selections were made. And I was in the same division in personnel where the selections for OCS were made. And was not a stranger there. I would stop in and say hello, how's everything going? How's my application doing? Have some donuts. You know, that sort of, really self-serving thing, but hopefully I got in on merit. But I was selected for a program, not the 90-day wonders of World War II or college graduate non-prior service types, not the direct commission people that bring law, aviation, civil engineering, physician's assistants in directly. But this was a program for enlisted members of the Coast Guard in subsequent enlistments. I had re-enlisted, and the program sends one through the 18-week OCS regimen with the 90-day wonder types, the college grad non-prior service, but we never leave the regular Coast Guard. The 90-day people are reservists who train, go on active duty for 3 years, and then revert to reservists, like the National Guard, the drilling reserve, back in those days. I graduated from OCS as an ensign, 01, in the regular Coast Guard with a temporary commission. I was on probation until being selected for lieutenant, pay grade 03. In other words, promoted to lieutenant junior grade, selected for promotion to lieutenant. Then I was discharged as an enlisted man, sworn in again as an officer, even though I was wearing 2 stripes as an officer. And my officer service record then became the only one they had on me. And it put me with an indefinite term. I was not under contract. I was appointed by the President and the Senate, and to serve indefinitely at the pleasure of the President. So indefinite means until you retire or until you are passed over for selection 2 times, and then you are retired. And competing with academy officers and their 4-year indoctrination and their engineering degrees that they get from New London, competing with them for assignments and promotion. It was daunting, but I was in it. My enlistment was going to run on for a while, and I was obliged to stay in that long, but accepting full commissioning added another 5 years onto that, which would have taken me up to about 14 years service. I had no pretense of leaving that close to retirement without anything to show for it. So I knew I was in for the long haul, and it turns out it was the right decision. It worked out well.
Was this still, the war was by this time winding down?
It was and it wasn't. The sequence is, I was commissioned in December of '73. Was serving aboard a 205-foot former Navy fleet tug, the Coast Guard cutter Tamaroa, in New York City I got there right after New Year's. My leave took me up to, I think, January 2nd, and I reported. So that was 74, and the evacuation of Saigon was the next year.
Yeah.
So I say it was and it wasn't. It was still pretty hectic. There was still a lot of action. There was the mess with Cambodia, and then the withdrawal from Cambodia where we'd never been. How does that work? And we then the peace process kicked in. So I guess we were right on the cusp of it winding down.
Were you, what were the reactions of civilians towards you during that period of time?
The Coast Guard enjoys the unique quality of being as close to the public in certain settings as the post office is. And occasionally people would take advantage to speak to the federal government by talking to the guy that just towed them in from a disability, talking about taxes and the war and things like that. Matters of interest to them on a federal plane. I never got much of that. We were located, with the exception of Governor's Island and Training Center Cape May, which came later after the point of our conversation, we were always in the community. We lived with civilian neighbors and tried to make a point of letting them know what it was we did. The Coast Guard is, we make fun of ourselves sometimes, saying we're like Rhode Island, we're small but we're cute. We're the world's largest non-nuclear Coast Guard, just, I guess, to deflect insults that we might get, but generally nobody doesn't like the Coast Guard. Folks understood that we were involved in the Coast Guard, but as an adjunct of the Navy, that we were operational over there, seagoing, and we did a lot of supervising of explosive ordnance. We set aids to navigation schemes in the navigable waters of South Vietnam. We operated a chain of electronic aids to navigation, aviation navigation stations, Loran, Omega, Omega and Loran were the two systems that we ran to guide aircraft. And that was it. That generally our traditional missions had to do with safety of life and property at sea, assistance to commerce. Very much a humanitarian service. Sure. And that's, I know the Coast Guard likes to stress multi-mission now. Since 9/11, that really has been the top dish on the plate. But we still can say that our primary concern is saving lives, not taking them. And so thus explained, we never got as much hassle as the defense services did. Yeah. At least I didn't. Yeah.
So we're now in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Where did you go from there?
From the Tamaroa in New York, I stayed on Governor's Island and became a duty officer at the Coast Guard's Atlantic Area Rescue Coordination Center. If one were to take the world's largest hatchet and cut the earth along the axis of the Mississippi River and take the right half, see on camera to be the right half, 180 degrees around the world, that half of the world would be our operating area or our area of responsibility for search and rescue and other Coast Guard operations. I was a search planner, a communications facilitator, a sleuth, working with and in consort with Lloyd's of London, who insure cargoes and vessels and individuals and want to know where their stuff is. We had a button that at night when it buzzed, we could open the door and let people into the building, while at the same time searching for a missing aircraft someplace. It was the best overall assignment I ever had as far as learning my place in the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard's place in the world maritime arena. If I ever wanted to go back into the Coast Guard, I'd like to go back there and plan searches. May I anticipate a question that you have, and that is interesting incidents and like that? Well, yeah, there's one that has been on my mind a lot lately and always is at this time of year. Our area commander wore 3 stars, which a vice admiral made him senior to the district commanders in Boston, Portsmouth, himself in New York, Miami, New Orleans, St. Louis, Cleveland, Long Beach, San Francisco, and Juneau, and Honolulu. He had a counterpart, the Pacific area commander, who had those folks west of the Mississippi, but we were tied to our east side rescue centers, Boston, Cleveland, and all those that I mentioned, with a search and rescue telephone, a hotline. And when it rang and showed its blue light, red light, it meant that one of the rescue centers in our area needed to talk urgently. I was on watch, and kind of a nondescript night, nothing much going on our board. We weren't planning anything major, not running a search. There was nothing else Coast Guard wise going on, but the red light went on, and it was Cleveland. It was the RCC, Rescue Coordination Center in Cleveland, 9th District. And the controller out there, when I answered, said, we're missing a freighter. Send everything. Everything you got. Whatever you got that floats, flies. If you've got a Coke machine with a fan on it, get it airborne and send it. It was the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I'd been an applicant for the Merchant Marine. I had wanted to work summers on the ore boats in the Great Lakes. They wanted a whole bunch of money to join the Seamen's International Union. I didn't have a whole bunch of money, so I got a really neat piece of ID out of it from the Coast Guard, who administer merchant shipping and personnel. But I had seen Edmund Fitzgerald. I knew her by name. But there wasn't anything special about her except this night, of course, she was lost. Having been out a couple of miles ahead of the Arthur Anderson and available each radar sweep until she wasn't. She went down. The weather that we had, we knew it was coming. We knew it was a perfect storm situation with Gulf air and Arctic air out of Canada meeting over Lake Superior, but we didn't regulate the movement of merchant vessels except up there in the Soo canals. There was a sophisticated radar and voice communication system called Soo Control up there, but out on the open lakes, you're out there on your own risk. Time is money, and we do not interfere with commerce, try to assist them if we can. And in search and rescue cases, we do everything we can to relieve the problem. That night, as a matter of folklore now, there was no rescue possible. There was no location possible. It was 70-knot winds and 30-foot seas and heavy snow. As soon as she went down, she was lost with 29 men. And so I stayed with that case. We built the basic search plan, helped the 9th District with computer resources we had, sent them a sample search plan based on winds and currents and anticipated weather and so forth, where they might look at first light. This all went down at about 7:30 in the evening, and we couldn't get anything overhead even until after first light the next day. But I thought that this was happening in my neck of the woods, and thought about the families, thought about the men, and my prayer on that evening was that it was quick. And I think it probably was, but they still had said their last radio communication to Arthur M. Anderson was, "We're holding our own." But if there were guys in the water, they didn't survive long, and I hope that it was merciful.
I don't want you to take this as being a facetious question, but have you heard the song by Gordon Lightfoot?
I know every word of it.
Yeah. How does that affect you?
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
But in a strange way, it gives me, I'm proud of it,
Yeah.
I guess, because it talks about us. It talks about we people in the upper Great Lakes that we're sportsmen, we're good people, we know and understand the power of the lakes. We revere them.
Yeah.
We go swimming in them. We know that they're unique and they're ours.
Yeah.
And we tell that to Utah and Arizona and Nevada and the people that want our water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's kind of a mixed emotion about it.
Yeah. I guess from my perspective, because I loved his music, love his music, and I got a sense of that tragedy from that song, because I've never actually talked to somebody who was directly involved in it.
One of the lyrics is that in a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral. That's the Mariners Church, or Old Mariners, down on Fort Street, I think, in Detroit, right downtown. Tiny little church, but it serves and has served merchant mariners coming through there that tie up in Detroit. The vicar, it's an Episcopal church, and the vicar there was the Reverend Richard W. Engels, who was my parish priest in Howell when I was a kid growing up. And it was he who directed that the ship's bell that they have in the chapel there be rung 29 times, one for each man. Father Dick.
Yeah.
He's quite a guy.
So that was, as you've mentioned earlier, your favorite part of your career, if you will.
I think it was the most rewarding.
Yeah.
I prefer searching and saving and the operational side of it, where you get to be Columbus. You get to, especially as a navigator, to take your ship and all the guys that are relying on you from point A to point B and get back with all of them on time.
Yeah. So where did you go from there?
From RCC, I was blessed with a command, and which is rare for officer candidate types. But I was transferred to the Coast Guard Station at Cape May, New Jersey, site of our training center, our boot camp. Now the only one. Used to be one out in Alameda, California, but that was disestablished. The boat station at Cape May was the most active as far as the number of sorties or movements of the individual boats. Search cases, law enforcement cases, anti-pollution cases, pollution investigation cases of any station in the Coast Guard 2 of the 3 years that I was there. And not necessarily because of my leadership. That's where the action is, where the Intercoastal Waterway, Delaware Bay, and the Atlantic Ocean meet, with Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York bracketing it, and Baltimore bracketing it. Everybody's got a boat, everybody likes to sail it, and everybody likes to come to Cape May to get their feet in the sand. It was, I went about 3 years without a hot meal. I ate a lot, but generally I would sit down to dinner and the phone would ring. So we've got a fire someplace, we've got a heart attack case. The Coast Guard Air Station at Cape May spotted a sheen by the clam factory, whatever. And during the good weather, this generally was 24/7. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, very much like here in West Michigan, our boats ran to the point where we couldn't do routine maintenance or preventive maintenance on them. It all had to be casualty control because we had so much traffic. We had a great Coast Guard auxiliary arm there that relieved us at the end of tows so that we could go back out and get another one. There was a hospital, a dispensary on the base at Cape May that had medical personnel that we could take with us if we needed to, if it was a heart case or a bleeding or an urgent medical case. Even more so, they could, the helicopter station there, the air station, was just at the other end of the base, and they could get people there quickly. I once was ferried by helicopter out to a tugboat in Delaware Bay, a big commercial tug that had a fire aboard, and the crew had put the fire out before they abandoned and used a lot of water, but they didn't drain any of the water. And so I was dispatched by the air station. Of course, these fly guys, they're not going to go out there themselves. They look for a ship driver. And of course, I was landlocked. I was the commanding officer of the boat station, but I had shipboard damage control experience, and so they put me on a helicopter, hoisted me down, and hoisted a couple of pumps down. Some crewmen from Indian River, Delaware Station came over, Coast Guard Station, and helped with the pumps. We got them down in the bilge, tightened up the nuts around the shaft bearing, and pumped the water out. This all happened when the Detroit Tigers were playing on the national game of the week. It's Saturday afternoon, and it just messed up my Tiger game, but we did manage to keep the tug from capsizing, and they sent another tug down from Philly, and about the time we were done, they took it in tow and took it back.
What were some of the incidents like that really stood out for you?
Law enforcement. Before I say law enforcement, just for the general daring do of Coast Guard law enforcement, I must say I had 36 assigned to my station, a responsibility to keep 1 or 2 boats ready to go immediately. And we did this with as many as 16 females. We were the first Coast Guard operating shore unit that had females serving in all the enlisted specialties that we had assigned. Enginemen, bosun mates, seaman apprentices, fireman apprentices, seamen, firemen. We did not have a gunner's mate, didn't have a radarman, that sort of thing, but everything that, every flavor of enlisted specialty, we had at least one woman filling that. We found that the women did, the best of the women did as well as the best of the men, and the worst of the women performers were not as bad as the worst of the men. They were more highly motivated, they had something to prove, and prove it they did. They were terrific. I mentioned law enforcement, that includes the women. We got some Navy training in small arms, some Coast Guard training in small arms, but it was range training. We needed training in jump up and shoot, kick a door in and shoot. So the Lower Township Police Department in Cape May and the New Jersey State Police were more than generous with their training resources to get our kids, and I say kids, some of them were 17, but get our non-commissioned officers and apprentices to the point where they weren't scared to death to go aboard a profile vessel and check for safe boating, check for there may be a profile for trafficking of illegal drugs, but to get them confident in themselves and in each other, same deal. I know what I can do and I know what we can do. That's a guarantee of Coast Guard basic training. And we racked up some numbers. We seized a number of vessels, arrested a number of people, conducted as Title 14 U.S. Code empowers us. We did searches, inquiries, investigations, arrests, seizures, detentions among vessels in federal waters, U.S. and otherwise. All hands. Some of the hands were tiny little slender ones, but they were marvelous.
So how long did that last, that particular assignment?
3 years.
Okay. And
Three.
then from there, where did you go?
Cleveland.
Okay.
I began my my personal plan of repatriating myself to up where nobody has an accent, and I was transferred to the 9th District Commander's office as recruiting officer. Personnel military recruiting, PMR, was my staff symbol. And I administered a string of recruiting offices and sub-offices, including Grand Rapids, Milwaukee, Duluth, Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, Syracuse, and Binghamton, New York, Akron, Ohio. Visited them, tested their readiness both militarily and in recruiting policies. We had enlisted quotas that were just get the qualified people that you can get, test them, and get them to Cape May, get them to recruit training. In some cases, we were given goals, mostly minority goals, which did not necessarily translate into only black applicants, but there's a sizable Native American population in the 9th District in various places, and we worked on reservations, and I'm thinking right now of the Red Lake Indian Reservation in upstate Minnesota. Working with our Duluth office, there was a young man a Native American guy who had graduated from college, and he was exactly what we were looking for as far as an officer candidate. So I flew to Duluth and hopped in the car with the officer in charge of Duluth recruiting. We drove another 2 hours up to Red Lake Indian Reservation, got on the reservation, and we're going to this boy's address. And it was on a 2-track, and we noticed little spews of dust in front of the car. And I said, "Jerry, what is that?" And he said, "Oh, they know we're here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, they shoot 22s at us when we come up here." "You mean at you?" "No, just to let us know that they know that we're here." Until they realize that it's the Coast Guard, they think it's Bureau of Indian Affairs or the Revenuers or whoever, the evil government, not the Coast Guard. So they didn't hit us. I don't have a Purple Heart, but I have officially been shot at in the line of duty. But that was wonderful to meet families of people, to talk to enlistment applicants and gauge their motivations, I guess against my own and against what I knew our standard to be. We made our numbers, we kept the Coast Guard going. In those days, our service was about 35,000. 30,000 enlisted, 5,000 commissioned across the board, which was about 7,000 fewer than the New York City police force. More cops on the beat in New York City than there were Coast Guardsmen around the world. Since 9/11, the total population of the Coast Guard has gone up over 40,000 because of the emphasis in port security and maritime safety overall. And with the current events in France, as this is being recorded, I would imagine it's not impossible that we could expand again, depending on what happens from here.
Sure. I noticed in the newspaper clippings that you were looking through with Melissa that there was the funeral of LBJ. Where does that fit into all of this? Or am I getting ahead of myself?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I didn't talk about that, but when I was stationed in Coast Guard headquarters in Washington, I had a collateral duty in pay grade E5, second class petty officer at that time, to attach temporarily to the Coast Guard Honor Guard stationed in Arlington, because the funeral plans of presidents, the official funeral plans published by the Military District of Washington, specify that pay grade E5 be deployed to stand the casket watch, to do other things attendant to lying in state and so forth. So the Honor Guard, not having people of that pay grade, they're all junior to that, borrow petty officers from Coast Guard headquarters, our oceanographic lab, some of the other Coast Guard units in the DC and Baltimore area to drill periodically and be ready to stand the death watch. That was me. And I was so detailed for President Truman's funeral in Independence, Missouri, before the holidays of 72, and then shortly after New Year, President Johnson died. And my job was to stand 1 hour on and 2 hours off around the clock, stand a dress personnel inspection, full, nose hairs, stones in the shoes, every third hour, and then go out and stand by the casket. We had to learn the relief, we had to learn the silent commands for being relieved. Seen most recently, I think most recently here at President Ford's Presidential Library in Grand Rapids. Detail from the Presidential Honor Guard was here. Stood the death watch with a member of each service at the each corner of the casket, and then a junior officer as officer in charge of that detail from the 5th Service at the head of the casket. That's what I did. Tremendous honor. It was marvelous. I was as close to President Nixon as I am to you, except I couldn't look at him.
Yeah. What do you think about when you're standing there like that?
That one bead of sweat, since we're under television lights, that one bead of sweat that started at the base of my neck and is traveling at infinitely slow speed down my spine, and not being able to reach around with your bayonet and relieve the itch. I thought about, with both President Truman and Johnson, I thought about their place in history. Selfishly, I thought about my place in their place in history, which was nil. I was furniture. But I was there representing you and my family and everyone, all Americans, in tribute to them. I applied for, while I was still on active duty, to be called for President Ford's funeral. I left the service. I retired before President Ford passed away. So I wasn't obviously called for that, but I did go to DeVos Place and stood out in the cold for a while.
I came that close to interviewing Ford for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Got his personal phone number, talked to his secretary, who was looking. She says, yes, I'm looking at him right now. He's reading a book. But their thinking was that he had reached a point where he was unable to really talk clearly and whatnot.
He had some stories to tell. He was an aircraft carrier man. He was a lieutenant commander as I wound up. And he was our man. He was Grand Rapids' favorite son. And I thought the world of him.
I did a wonderful, since we brought up Ford, yeah.
You have about 10 minutes until we need to wrap up.
Okay.
To be out of here by 11:30.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, I will. I'll
we're
tell you
coming
this
to the
story.
end.
I'll tell you this story after we finish. So, how did your career wind down, so to speak, and what decision was made? Why did you do it?
I was advanced to lieutenant commander before I left Cleveland to go to Muskegon, and I was the commander of a string of Coast Guard stations along the east shore of Lake Michigan, from Michigan City to Frankfort. With headquarters in Muskegon, we provided administrative, engineering, medical support, operational support. We were their duty office and their long-range radio station. It was a homecoming for me, being a native of Lansing and growing up in Grand Rapids. It was great. Many of my family were still here, my wife's family, and we enjoyed it. Plus, it was a group command, a larger. We had 190 people, about a $600,000 budget annually for all the stations, and I was kind of felt at the top of my game. I was able to use everything that I had learned. It also was an area where the water gets real hard in the winter. The boats come out, go into the boathouse or to the marina and get shrink wrapped and put away, and we train or grant as much leave, earned leave, to our guys and girls as we can, or send them where their skills are needed in warmer climates, and most notably the 7th Coast Guard District, Miami, with the Haitian interdiction situation that was going on there, the aftermath of the Mariel boat lift, New Orleans and the Gulf and their region of operations, turtle net interdictions. There's always something going on with the oil rigs down there, and those guys and girls run year-round because they don't have ice. So they need a rest. And so the 9th District, the 2nd District, St. Louis, some of the 3rd District, which doesn't exist anymore, but the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania units will send off people to provide temporary relief without degradation of operational capability. In some cases, increase in their capability. I sent boats from Cape May during the winter down the ICW to Key West, 2 boats and 2 crews for the Mariel boat lift. And that was in 1980. But it was good to be home. It was good to be visible as the Coast Guard's senior man in my home area. We got real friendly with the Muskegon Lumberjacks hockey team. They had Coast Guard night, I think 3 or 4 times a season. Other community involvement that we were able to get into during the slack period during the winter. I wanted to retire from here. I could have, but I came up 6 months short. 19 years, 6 months in the service when my my tour ended at Cape May. And I was told there are many others that want your job. We cannot, I just wanted to extend for 6 years and then retire in place, come back to Grand Rapids, go back to Grand Valley and finish up. But I was told, hit the road, Jack. You can either go to, we've got 2 real good opportunities for you. The Public Affairs and News and Information Center on Governor's Island, New York, where I've been stationed twice before. That sounded pretty good. Or ADAC, Alaska. My question to the assignment manager was, is there professional baseball on ADAC, Alaska? Well, he didn't think so. How about golf? He was sure there wasn't golf in ADAC, Alaska. He said, but there is a good-looking girl behind every tree. I said, I'll go to Governor's Island, thank you. New York for me. What a town. And I went there, served 3 years as chief of news and photo, and then I fleeted up as a lieutenant commander took a captain's billet as chief of administration for that Atlantic Area Command that I was a duty officer for several years before. And so that was my third command, and that was the end of the line. My son was going to Grand Valley at that time. He was having a rough time. My mother-in-law was suffering from late-stage Alzheimer's back here in Grand Rapids. And I thought that I would not be standing for promotion. I didn't think my year group would make it up the line enough before my retirement orders, which I had. I was given retirement orders for the 1st of May of 1990. I thought effectively they would disqualify me from consideration. It didn't. I was selected for promotion to commander. So that was a tough night. I had to decide if I wanted to give up 22 years of everything the Coast Guard had been for me, or get on with the rest of my life with time to do a second career. I called my assignment manager in Washington. I said, I knew him, they'd lived next door to us on Governor's Island. Andy, what do you got for me? You're gonna love this. I've got 3 operational jobs for you. I said, 3 ships? No. Headquarters, operational management, desks. What don't you understand about that? I said, quite everything, thank you. And nice talking to you, and have a nice life. I'll see you later. I'm going to put the retirement orders in effect and go home. Mm-hmm. So I did. Retired then, and came home. I retired on the 1st of May. I was sitting in the TV studio where we do audio and video production in Kirchhoff Center on the 7th, and finished my degree, was hired by Grand Valley. My degree was in advertising and public relations, communications, and I was hired by the alumni office at Grand Valley to work in alumni relations as a fundraiser and a fundraiser and organizer, and was selected as Associate Director of Alumni Relations, spent 9 years in that capacity, and then retired from Grand Valley on the 1st of January 2007.
Well, that's been quite a conversation.
I haven't been able to hold a job much. I keep getting up and outed.
Yeah. Ken, we're going to talk about your Grand Valley experience too, but thank you very much for participating in the Library of Congress Veterans History Project in Grand Valley.
Thank you for the work you do.